Alrighty, Tackles and Tinnies listeners, welcome back to the show. This is pretty exciting. So this is a new segment. Okay, this is completely off from the main podcast show. This is just going to be purely based on Supercoach. So I got three of my best mates here, Andy, Adam, and Jake. Say hello, boys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, bro.
So again, these guys are really, really good at Supercoach. Maybe not Andy, but we'll see. But again, guys, we'll just go around the room, quickly introduce yourself. We'll look at where you're ranked, your team value, and we'll go from there. So, Jakey, start with you, brother.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, appreciate the invite on the pod today or this evening. Yeah, mate, I've known you for, 4 or 5 years now, just purely through some touch rugby league on the Gold Coast. I am a Gold Coast boy. I was born in Victoria, but raised here on the Goldie. I'm a Sparky by trade, mate. And yeah, love my footy. So yeah, excited to be here and have a chat.
Fantastic, Jake. I think you're going to bring plenty to the show. And just off your Supercoach at the moment, mate, what are you currently ranked?
Mate, look, I'm not doing too well. I'm in the 36,000s. So I'm definitely pretty high, pretty up there, I feel.
Do we give you some slack, though? Because I think you're playing more head-to-head this year. Is that correct?
I am, which I always have. That's kind of been how I've approached it. And before this year started, I said I was going to go overall. But my natural gameplay is just that head-to-head. As soon as there's a few cash leagues going on, the green eyes kind of come out a little bit. And just all my game plan just fell and crumbled. So I am a head-to-head dude. So I am looking for that early money, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, and I think that's actually going to be quite insightful too for the listeners. Again, most of us play overall, but obviously having your perspective for a head-to-head is also going to be useful as well. So thanks for that, Jakey. Andy, brother man, how are you?
So, Ryan, I met you probably 4 years after school, found out you were actually 2 grades below me, didn't even know you, and just kind of kicked it off a bit. About 4 years ago, started doing the Supercoach with Adam. Adam actually brought us onto this, and I'm now 3-time finalist in our head-to-head and 1-time winner. So I'll claim that as the champ from last year.
Yep, 100%.
I had a bit of a rocky start to the season. Currently ranked at about K. Overall, pretty happy with my team build so far. Just made some poor choices to start the season. Not really playing the right players. Like my sit start rate hasn't been really good. First round kind of didn't play a few of the Broncos boys and also the Roosters boys when they scored really high, and then just kind of really made really poor choices with captaincy so far. Had the captaincy on Turbo when he went down, as well as I had the captaincy on Haas last week when just Tigers were just all over him. And hats off to Benji Marshall for knowing how to shut him down, but it wasn't really good for my score. So currently sitting around 11K, but yeah, hoping to make some moves forward with some better picks with my team. Other than that, pretty happy with where I'm at.
Yeah, sick, mate. That's really good. Adam, everyone has heard your name here or twice before on the potty.
The master.
That's a little bit of a shout out. So thank you to Adam for introducing us to Supercoach. But just tell us a little bit about yourself, commissioner of our league.
Yeah, so I run our little league with our friends, and we're playing Supercoach for quite a while, like 10 plus years now. And, just wanted to get you guys involved because it's good fun. Ryan and I go way back, primary school days. Bit of a throwback, but I'm sure we're not the only ones that used to open those chip packets just for the footy cards.
At the Tarzo.
Yeah, I used to have a silver Matty Bowen, my favorite player, so used to cherish that one back in the day. But yeah, I'm a pretty serious overall player. That's really my favorite part. We've done a bit of drafts, which has been fun. Head to head, I'll be honest, I don't really look at it until finals, and even then, not really my focus, which is a good excuse when I don't win, like last year. So yeah, very much overall, love overall, and spend a lot of time on it, and doing pretty well this year, which is nice. So I'm sitting 92nd overall, which is good.
Such a flex. So good.
Yeah, no, it's a good start, and I've made a few mistakes along the way despite that. One of the biggest ones was Ryan and I were talking about fading Cleary at the start of the year, and we both decided not to start Cleary, went with some cheapies. And then I panicked after round one and rough cleared straight in, and that hasn't worked out too well, but still sitting well overall. So pretty happy with that. Team value's all right, about 14 million, a little bit behind some other people, but usually my main focus is on points, not so much value. So pretty happy with where I'm at. What are we, 5 weeks in?
Yeah. Well, I think sitting 92 overall, I think your head-to-head matches don't really matter too much, because if you're doing that well in terms of overall points, you're probably going to be winning most games anyway. So that's a good flex to have, Adam. So Jake, if you got your team value there, mate, what are you currently valued at?
Let me quickly find that for you, mate.
And Andy, you can do the same, mate.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of 14 mils being thrown around already, but I'm definitely a bit high, sitting just over the 3 mil mark. So I am a huge fan of cheapies. I've always kind of had that rough plan that the centre wing cheapies are always a great way to go. Any player that's getting 80 minutes on the pitch. So yeah, I had a strong start with Shibasaki, Tamale, Toya, Purdue, and Iongi, and even with that, I've had Arthurs from the beginning, which is definitely a cheapie, but even in that 300,000 mark, that midway, for me, that was too much. I was actually umming and ahhing Jesse to start the year. So yeah, when it comes to the cheapies, mate, I've always got my eyes on them.
Yeah. So you're about just under 14 million. What are you at, Andy?
So I'm 14.153, and yeah, kind of, I was pretty happy with my start and like cheapie selection. On previously years, I've kind of had to scramble a bit to get the cheapies in over the first 2 rounds. So I already had them. So I had, Shibasaki and Toya, Gozowitsky, White, who else? May, Tino, which I know not dirt cheap, but cheap for his price.
Yes.
And then have made the good trade-ins as well. Like I got Starling in a few rounds ago, Pakes, Smith, Sandon Smith, that is, and Arthurs. Didn't really have them at the start, but got them in. I'm trying to start to build a bit of money. It's slow. Yeah, just keeping an eye out at the moment for just who possibly could be the next money makers. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So I've finally got a win over you boys, but I'm currently at 14.46. So my cash gen's been unreal. I've been quite lucky in the guys that I picked and chose to fade. So this week we'll go through trades later on, but pretty much my whole bench, but Nico Hines and Ponga, are just going to make me bulk cash. In terms of where I'm projected, I'm going to keep that upward trajectory going up in terms of my cash generation. I probably predict I'll be close to 14.8 in the next probably 2 weeks. So in terms of the guns I should be able to get in by trading up and then trading down, it'll be interesting where we can go with that. And when we go through the trades, it'll be interesting to hear your boys' perspective on what I plan on doing. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I've been quite aggressive in what I've been doing. And I'm notorious with my impulsive trades from last year, trading out DWZ after 1 week, after he got like 10 points, and then he brained it the next week. So I can be quite emotional with my trades. But again, it's fantastic to have you guys now in my corner, and I just message you guys or DM you guys like, is this a good trade? And you say fantastic, or you send me a silly gift saying, Ryan, pull your head in. What I think the best way to do this, boys, is I think we go position by position for all of us and just compare who we have. So for example, at fullback, and then we'll go through the 4 of us, and then we'll work our way up the super coach positional list. How does that sound?
That's great.
Yeah, yep.
Great. All right. Well, I'll kick us off. So at fullback, currently I have Ryan Pappenhausen and Kalen Ponga, and I may as well include Clint Gutherson as my flex position. So I've gone to 3-gun fullback. I initially did have Isaiah Iongi, but when Clint Gutherson had that mega BE about 3 weeks ago, that's when I jumped off Iongi and went for the 3-gun fullback, and obviously that's looking good for me at the moment. It's gone to like 200K. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with my fullbacks. Andy, who you currently got at fullback?
I actually have the same setup as you. So I started the season with Kalen Ponga, Tom Trbojevic, and Iongi. I rode the wave of Iongi for a little while. I traded Gutherson in when he versed Melbourne a few weeks ago now. That being said, he scored like a 50, but a Tom for that round. I'm pretty sure that was the round he was injured. And then just last week, I got Pappenhausen in as well. So that's my 3 fullback setup. Also going with like heavy on the fullback rotation, just purely because they just look like that is the position this year that's making the most points.
Yep, definitely. And especially like Pappenhausen getting the conversions back, and Clint Gutherson obviously heavily centered in attack. I think obviously it's a no-brainer. And then obviously Ponga's a top 3 fullback, even though he's been underperforming. But yeah, good call, Andy. Jakey, what about you, brother?
Yeah, so I was pretty similar to Andy, starting with the exact same 3 fullbacks of Turbo, Ponga, and Iongi. I still have Ponga and Iongi because, yeah, obviously everyone is following that same suit of the 3-gun fullback. I have traded out Turbo to JC, though. He hasn't done super for me since I've brought him in, but yeah, I'm actually umming whether he's the man I want to keep. But I think I was discussing with you, Ryan, even going off last week, the Titans had a poor performance against the Finns and pretty much had a pretty heavy loss, and he still managed 52 points. So in that halfback position again, it makes me definitely want to hold him, I think. So yeah, bit of thoughts this week, but yeah, they're my 3.
Yeah. Sweet. Adam, what about you, mate?
Yeah, so my 3 fullbacks at the moment, I have Clint Gutherson as well. Just thought the role was too good, you know. I have 2 other fullbacks whose role hasn't been quite as good, which has been a bit frustrating. And the good thing about Gutho is he's got Elias and Flanagan in the halves, and they just shovel it out back to him. You know, Gutho's sweeping left, he's sweeping right. He gets the ball every time, good service, and they just let him cook, you know. Yeah, the Dragons might not be great, but he's going to get so many opportunities that it doesn't always matter. And I was lucky enough to captain him last week, which I was really happy about. So that got me, a bit of a leg up last week, 130 for Gutho. Would have been 150 if Sloan put the ball down, but we won't complain about that. My other 2 fullbacks at the moment are James Tedesco. I got him from Turbo. When Turbo had that hamstring tightness, I jumped ship straight away because I get nervous about hamstring injuries in players. And so I went to Teddy. I just liked his matchups. He had the Warriors, he had the Titans, and then the Bunnies. And I really liked his role in that Penrith game in round 2. He scored 120. Similar to Gutho, he's getting the ball both sides. You know, he's the dominant attacking option in that Roosters team. Or so I thought. The last few weeks, it's been a little bit frustrating. I haven't been giving him too much ball. But he's been doing really well. The tackle box are there, like players falling off him left and right. He looks like, the Teddy of old. So he's been really good for me and probably a hold for a while, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Couple of tough matchups. Broncos this week, Penrith in 2 weeks. But if he doesn't play Origin, they cover all the buys. So
Huge.
he might be back in the Origin frame. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm happy with Teddy there. He's a bit expensive, but he'll do a job. My last fullback is Walsh, and that's been a bit of a disaster. So I actually started 3-gun fullbacks. I started with Walsh over Iongi. Only cost me an extra 520k. And Iongi has scored more points up to now, which is, not good. Thought Broncos would be dominant in attack. They've been good. It just didn't factor in Ben Hunt taking a lot of that attack, So Walsh, he has dropped about 140k. He's averaging a bit under 60. Tough call this week on what to do with him, but that's where I'm sitting at fullback at the moment.
Yeah. We'll save your trades for later. But yeah, he's definitely a frustrating player to watch in the first couple of rounds. And obviously it was quite evident when his confidence was definitely at its lowest point. But I think he's on the research, but we'll talk about that later on. All right. Center wing, very contentious position. We'll go through your starters, boys, and then we'll look at your benches because I'm assuming the benches might be relatively similar. So this week I've put AJ Brimson down to center wing, and that accompanies Ruben Garrick, Christian Tuipulotu, and Thomas Jenkins. Again, cash generation's there. AJ Brimson, he was on a bit of a lull, but seems to be getting some more attacking stats, and he's very attacking reliant. But I do like that center wing 5'8" duel. So if I do have someone go down, I do have some options to go back up. Obviously, Ruben Garrick's no brainer. He's done quite well for me overall. Does have a pretty heavy break even at 134 this week, but again at 800,000 when I bought him at 650, no brainer. I got on Christian Tuipulotu when he had that big BE, same as Gutho. And again, he's done quite well for me, going above his set average. And he's got a pretty juicy matchup against the Gold Coast Titans this week. And then pretty much jumped on Thomas Jenkins, 2 weeks ago now. Pretty much similar to a lot of different people. Huge BE still, or low BE, heaps of cash generation. So seems to have a decent role for the Penrith Panthers, which is obviously quite important. And again, with Nathan Cleary getting back some more form, Dylan Edwards back this week, I can only expect Thomas Jenkins to keep those attacking stats coming. What about you, Andy?
Alrighty, so in the centre wing, I've got Garrick, Fletcher Sharp, Jesse Arthurs, and Shibasaki. I'm not 100% sure who I'm playing yet or not, bench-wise, but I've also got, is it Tamale, Jenkins, and Toya. Toya, I mean, I've had from the start. Jenkins, I actually bought him after 1 week to make my Gutho trade work, which was such a blessing because he scored like a 75 that week and really saved me. And then, Tamale, Shibasaki, and Arthurs are kind of all on the watch list to whether I downgrade them or not. I'm just kind of just having a look and feeling out the next couple of weeks. Same thing with Ruben Garrick. It's going to be interesting how he performs without Turbo there now. So just he's obviously, K, so that money can be used literally anywhere else.
Yeah, definitely.
Upgrading the halfbacks, 5'8", you name it. So whether Garrick gets a trade down, not really sure yet.
Yeah. Jakey.
Yeah, so definitely love my cheapies. I have Jesse, Shibasaki, Tamale, and Jenkins as my starting four, with Purdue, Toya, and a bit of an oddball here, but Targo for the Eels, who played, I think, around shoulder or collarbone or something went wrong with him, but he's been injured and therefore dropped ever since with Josh Adokar coming back. So just sitting on that bench for me doing nothing. Not in a super rush to sell him. I'm just looking for that perfect opportunity of like who to kind of jump on. I know we're not really want to talk about trades, but just slipping in maybe a Sarko could kind of be like on that watch list for me this week.
Yep, nice.
So, but up against a Panthers that I feel like are going to find their mojo again soon. But yeah, they're my centre wingers as a whole.
Adam.
Yeah, pretty vanilla for me at centre wing. Got Garrick as my main gun. I started Marju. He's been pretty solid. A lot of base, not much attack so far, so I'm hoping that swings. He's cheap enough that, I'll leave him there for a while. And then just a bunch of cheapies, really trying to maximize the cash there. So I got, Purdue, Jenkins, Shibasaki, Hoya, and Tamale. Slowly peak, cash him out when the time comes, but not really in a rush to change much there.
Yep. Yeah, I'll quickly go with my bench unit. But again, similar to what you guys have, Shibasaki and Tamale. But I also have Adam Dewey because I was running center wing flex with Brimo. But obviously that's now changed. But 5'8" boys, this position's desolate at the best of times this year. There's no one really standing out. There's been a bit of inconsistency here, but I've gone pretty much the two best guys you can get. I've just sort of set and forget mindset. I've gone Jaden Campbell from the Titans, and I've gone Cameron Munster. I picked him up this week, but again, I'll go with my trades later on. Yeah, two of the best guys you can get. Again, the logic is I'm trying to save trades this year, even though I've gone super aggressive with my trades. Yeah, I'm hoping front loading now, and then we can sort of cruise for later. What about you, Andy?
Honestly, pretty much have the exact same setup. Had got Jaden Campbell in last week, and Munster, I'm pretty much almost locked on bringing him in this week. I think just that Storm side is just, the attack is incredible at the moment. And then Munster, just the way he's moving around the park, he looks so free, just almost like his old self. Storm's very kind of Hughes driven at the moment, but I mean, Munster's kind of second best option.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, looked, I think post-surgery, he's definitely looked like a 2022 Munster, that's for sure. Jakey, what about you, brother?
Yeah, I'm running Munster and Metcalf at the moment. I have truly disliked it this year. I've had a very hard time with SuperCoach. A lot of my trades, 2 of my boosts have really destroyed me. When it comes to the 5/8 position, I started with Metcalf and I couldn't even tell you my second 5/8. I immediately sold Metcalf after that round 1 incident over
As we all did, mate.
backs for 100 plus. Looked like he was on fire and needed to be the man everyone needed. Quickly brought him back in.
Oh no.
Also, I've had
Jakey.
in my well, and he's disappeared completely from my squad. So yeah, I've definitely had a tough run in that 5/8, but currently running Munster, Metcalf. Happy with Munster. Still nervous about Metcalf at the moment.
Question, Jake, how much cash you got left in the bank?
Mate, I'm currently running with 35 trades. I've made 1 trade so far this week. So I've got 35 trades left with just over $1 million in the bank.
What? What the fucking Metcalf?
Time to go shopping, Jakey. You don't
Yeah,
know this
literally
on that.
time to go shopping.
Look, my theory, I know we were talking about that overall head-to-head early. My game plan most of
What
the
is?
time, I just need to make the finals when it comes to head-to-head. And I tend to have enough cash to buy every single peak player and just be this like top 8 team that is actually going to win the premiership one year and just kind of come through.
How'd that go last year, Jake?
Yeah, my exact comment, bro.
Pretty sure last 4 rounds, Adam and I didn't have any money or trades, and still finals.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I need to talk to you, Andy, on the side, mate. So all these secret.
Yeah, it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
funny.
I'm gonna put it on the bank. What's it take?
Mate, go boost this week. Do it for my sake, please.
We need to add a new segment and help Jakey spend this money.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, I'm bursting you, Jake, this week, so you can save your.
Save your trade. Adam, what about you, bro?
Yeah, I find it similar to you and Andy. I just got Monster and JC. Because it's not a great position, I was pretty keen to just set and forget it quickly. There was a train of thought that it's not worth having 2 gun 5/8 this year. You know, do you really want to reserve one every week? The issue is I had Metcalf and there wasn't anyone to go down to. Didn't want to hang on to him. So I'm pretty happy with those 2. I think they've got good upside. They've got good draws from now till Origin.
Yeah. Alrighty, halfback. This position's been quite volatile as well. Obviously with the Cleary, do we stay? Do we go at the very start of the season? Nicho Hines, is he a halfback? Is he a 5'8"? Is he something else in between? But this week I have got in Nathan Cleary, and again I'll go through trades later. I did start with, who was the Cowboys young fella, Adam? Duffy, yeah. So I started with Duffy originally. And then I went to Metcalf, and then I eventually got to Cleary. But yeah, now I'm Nicho Hines and Cleary. So yeah, again, arguably 2 of the best halfbacks in the game. Nicho Hines probably doesn't play Origin, so I got coverage there for Cleary. But yeah, Cleary's obviously a bit volatile in terms of his health. It's always a bit of a scare with him. But yeah, I'm quite happy with my pretty much got gun fullback, gun 5'8", gun halfback. Again, that probably comes down to my cash generation that I did early on. What about you, Andy?
So similarly, I started with Nicho Hines and Duffy. Kind of round 1, just rage traded Duffy out like as soon as I could. Just got him out of there. I can't remember who I went to, but he was just gone. I think round 2, round 3. I think round 2 traded Hines to Cleary, so I could get that Roosters matchup, which didn't really work out that well. Had Cleary injured. Had him last week, and yeah, I'm just kind of holding him at the moment. I kind of always wanted to have Cleary in just long term because he is just such a great half. Nicho Hines not really sold on at the moment. I'm just sitting with Sandon Smith in my half's second position, which he's done like really well. I think Roosters are really developing into a nice attacking squad, and he likes to run the ball. So I'm kind of happy with him at the moment, hopefully. And then plus like Roosters buy coverage.
Yep.
He'll do really well, I think.
Yep. Nice. Jakey, what about you, bro?
So I started with Nathan Cleary and Tom Duffy. Nathan Cleary has disappeared after that 2-pointer that when he got concussed with that collision with Jerome Hughes against the Storm. So immediately got rid of him the next week. That high break even, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ditch him. Find an opportunity to bring him back in when his price has dropped a bit. This week could be a week to get him back, but through that trade, I did go to Adam Reynolds to get a little bit of money. He had already kind of made his bulk previously. So, but now with that hamstring issue over the weekend, Reynolds has been named, but I think just to quote you, Adam, those hamstring injuries can be a bit scary. So, and with a high break even, I've actually gone to Dylan Brown this week. Yeah, that dual position, break even of 40. Hoping the Eels get a little bit of confidence. I think they're predicting Mitch Moses around round 9 to come back from his foot injury. So, and yeah, with that point win over the Dragons, yeah, I've decided to kind of, it might change, but at the moment it's Dylan Brown and I still have Duffy still sitting there just doing nothing for me. So, yeah, and I got a
Dylan Brown.
I reckon you should
Dylan
pop
Brown
him
is
on Harper.
super consistent. Such a consistent player.
Yeah. Adam, what are you, mate?
Yeah, so Cleary and Hines for me, pretty bread and butter. Started with Hines and Duffy. Didn't like what I saw from Duffy. Liked what I saw from Cleary. So did some surgery on my team to get Duffy straight up to Cleary. And I think that was vindicated with Duffy getting dropped. Unfortunately, Cleary had a head knock and lost a bit of cash and missed some points. That was a bit of a shame, but I can't really predict that. But I'm pretty happy with those two. I think really the only player that sort of scares me going up against them is Jerome Hughes, who, is someone that people that don't have two-gun halfback should probably be considering with the Storm's draw. I mean, scored 90 odd and had an early shower last game, so he's very good. But I think with Cleary and Hines, it's not worth the trade for me to go across to him.
Two sideways, yeah.
Yeah, they're both, goal kicking. They're both on good teams. I mean, Penrith is probably a little bit different for Cleary this year. Last few years he's been on a dominant team and had a few other guys to share the load with. This year, they're not quite as dominant, but he might actually have to do a bit more. And for Supercoach reasons, that can be better sometimes. We've seen that this year so far. So I'm pretty happy with those two. Not really looking to change that.
Yep. Nice. Okay. So, second row. Again, a lot of volatility here. I'm trying to go for cash gen, but I put Tino in straight away. Tino was always a first round buy for me. Obviously, I had to wait with the buy round, which did not help. But yeah, always wanted him in my team. Never planned on trading him, so may as well keep the free trade there. Ola Kawatu has obviously been quite dominant since the start of the year. Probably in career best form. Probably looking for an origin berth. And again, in a good team like Manly with a lot of offensive firepower, Ola Kawatu again was a no-brainer as my primary gun second rower. So that Tino, Corey Horsburgh, I've been using that as a flex position. So Corey Horsburgh this week is down to second row. I did have Zach Hosking, and then obviously Zach Hosking hurt his hand. So then I swapped Zach Hosking out for Matty Nicholson. And yeah, he's been one of the best buys for me personally. He's made huge cash, another really good break even this week. Looks like he's pretty much locked into that second row position, if not flexing to the lock position. So the minutes and the roles there. The Raiders are obviously up and coming and looking pretty solid this year. Last week, I made a trade for Kartoga from the Parramatta Eels. Jake, you might want to get on that one, mate. He's got a negative 22 break even this week, scored 77 points. Versus the Canberra Raiders, pretty relatively favourable matchup. Again, Parramatta Eels looking better in recent weeks. So he's been good for cash gen. Hubner, obviously inflated minutes last week due to the 3 hamstring injuries from the South Sydney Rabbitohs last week. But Hubner's been very solid. Again, negative 22 break even, similar to Kartoga. So the cash generation's there. And then this week, I've looked at putting Dylan Egan to facilitate some other trades, which I'll talk about later. I was looking at Thomas Kant, but I don't think the role is going to be there long term with Dylan Lucas coming back. And obviously, Kai Piss-Paul's a pretty good gun there. So I don't think the role's there for Kant. So that's why I'm leaning towards Egan in that regard. What about you, Andy?
So I actually have a pretty similar setup to you. Ola Kawatu, Corey Horsburgh, Gozowitzki, Hubner. As of the moment, I have Kant in as my trade down from trading down from Metcalf. Oh, not Metcalf, Aaron Clark. Which I guess we'll probably talk about trades a bit later. Just, looking for a cheapy option, gives me 200k. Yeah, I think Olakuatu, he has been incredible this year. I mean, even against like overpowering Melbourne side last week, still managed to walk away with an 86. Like, he's just tackle busting and offloading and just absolutely killing it. Corey Horsburgh, he hasn't been doing as well as I thought he would be doing. Kind of mid-sizz, which I'm fine with. White, he's in and out off the bench for me. Obviously, Tino's suspended this week, so usually Tino would get played and he might be on the bench. Kind of depends on the matchup, really.
Yep. Nice. Jakey, what about you, bro?
My 3 starters this week, I've already had a bit of play with my team, are going to be Olakuatu, Paddy Carrigan, and Nicholson. Yeah, once again, highlighting that Nicholson. I got him before his price rises, so been very happy with him as well, Ryan. And on the bench, I have Jacob Preston, Tino, and Jack Goshkoweski. So I've from memory made a few trades around my second row area. I did not start with Tino. I was just going to wait till he's that round 2, round 3 after the Titans' first bye to kind of see how he bounced back from his ACL injury. I didn't do any research. There was a doco, I believe, out there kind of about his rehab all of last year. But yeah, ACLs are definitely a big thing for any athlete, any player. So yeah, I held off on Tino. I did have Mitch Barnett, but he was in my front row. But I know I did ditch him, and that's when Tino came into play. But yeah, in terms of my second row, I've been pretty happy, to be honest. Jacob Preston, that 1-2-2 he got, not the week just gone, the weekend before, that was very nice. Don't know if it got me the win though. I think I still lost somehow. But yeah, overall, feeling pretty happy with my second row, to be honest. So happy there.
Yeah. So logic behind Paddy Carrigan. So I know obviously you love a cheapie, Jake, but as much as you love a cheapie, you love a dual position. Was that one of the primary reasons you were looking at getting Patrick Carrigan, or was it more of a role change to the front row, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, bang on. I definitely love my dual positions. It allows you to play around with your team a lot more, I feel, at times. It saves me in the past. I've never owned Paddy Carrigan in Supercoach in my previous years of playing. I think this is my 3rd or 4th year now with Supercoach. And I just decided to start the year with him. And as soon as I saw that he had that dual as well, once he was definitely locked in with that front row, I was like, yeah, that was my sign to just start with Paddy. And I'm really loving that pairing with Payne Haas for the Broncos. The Broncos have a lot of potential this year, and he's not scoring super, but he's always around that mid range. So he's losing me money, but I think I'll be holding on to Paddy until maybe that Origin comes around.
Yeah, he's safe.
Is that allowed?
For sure.
Is that allowed on your team, Jake? You allowed to lose money?
I don't even look at their scores or anything like that. I'm just looking at break evens week in, week out. So they've got a high break even. If they're the best player on the pitch, they're gone.
Gone. See you later.
Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Money in the bank. All right, Adam, what about you, bro?
Yeah, same as you, Ryan. I've got the expensive halves, expensive fullbacks, and I've had to make some sacrifices. Second rows where that's been. So I don't have all the Kawatu like you guys. I'm very jealous. We'll get to it a bit later when we talk about trades, but there's some big stats around Manly players with turbo in and turbo out. And he was a guy that I thought I could get away without turbo healthy at the start of the year. That's obviously changed. So I'm pretty cheap. I've got Horsburgh and White and Tino as my 3 sort of guns, so to speak. I've gotten away with it so far. White has been surprisingly good enough to keep on the field every week and hasn't hurt me. The bench is a little thin. So I've got Hubner, I've got Kobe Hetherington, and I've got Gachewski for the Broncos. That's a bit of deadwood to clear there, which we'll get to in my trades.
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting. What are you going to do there? Because I got rid of the tackle bot in Hetherington, and that was a easy decision. But yeah, again, we'll go through that later on. All right, next position, we got our front row forwards, and again, I like to steal this comment from the Supercoach Whisperer, but stack the pack. I'm frothing that statement because the front rowers this year are just unbelievable. Again, you got Horsburgh, you got Tino, if you want to play him there. Got Payne Haas, Terrell May. Yeah, AFB, obviously. Again, you can play Barnett if you want to play Barnett. But yeah, stack the pack this year is definitely the strategy in my eyes. And if you didn't start with Terrell May, what are you doing? Payne Haas, obviously, has been absolutely killing it. So he's been absolutely no-brainer as well. I've capped him in a couple of weeks in a row. Didn't do too well last week, but again, I'm lucky I avoided that. Not by choice. I had too many tinnies at the Titans game. And then I've got a bit of Deadwood in Vailepu, but he's been a potential VC loop that I'm trying to initiate. But I'm definitely looking at trading him in the coming weeks, but definitely not a priority. What about you, Andy?
I mean, I have those core three front row forwards, Haas, May, and Tino. Sat on Tino, even through the bye round one. Like, he was always coming in for me. And then had him in when he scored that 100 first week, which was incredible. Other than that, I have, what's his name? Hamish Stewart. That was just really just a downgrade cash option for me. He's just on interchange. He's probably not going to make any money. Almost kind of wish he just got unselected, because that would make my life a bit easier. I didn't have to worry about the VC loop of 35 points every week. But yeah, that's kind of my core three. Normally Tino would kind of be in the second row and White would be in the front row, and a kind of bench swap. But yeah, that's kind of the core three there.
Yep.
For my front row forward.
Yep, nice. What about you, Jakey?
Yeah, I'm running Payne Haas, Terrell May, Corey Horsburgh. That's kind of my three strengths in that front row, with Hamish Stewart as well as kind of that filler there. That Naff White, damn, that one player I wish I started with. I've just seen him get some great scores and rise in price, which is just destroying me inside out. So yeah, definitely missed that Naff White opportunity. Whoever has him, that's one I'm jealous of. But yeah, I'm very happy with my front rows. I've actually got the vice captain on Payne Haas and the captain on Terrell May at the moment this week.
Spicy.
Running those front rows. Yeah, that's where it's kind of sitting at the moment.
Yeah. I like that. And the Naff White, mate, I had that decision. I had Hetherington on Naff White there, and after that round one, I was a bit nervous about the Roosters and the potential lack of minutes for Naff White, but I've definitely been proven wrong there. That's definitely ruined my team value somewhat. Yeah, the one that got away, too expensive now, obviously, but maybe a potential buy during the origin period. And what about you, Adam?
Yeah, Terrell May, no-brainer. Payne Haas, no-brainer. I've actually got Simpkins from the Titans, just as a dual position enough. I pretty much always start with the dual position enough. Find that pretty handy. And then I've also got Sam Tuivasa from the Eels. We don't have to discuss how I ended up with him. He's scoring 20 points a week. He's made about $7,000. So he's a slow burn. I'll cash him out at some point.
Stack the pack, baby.
But he's not a priority. He'll sit there until I've got a spare trade, and that might be all year. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, front row again. So many points available and so many guns, where it's been so desolate in past years. But yeah, this year there's so many good options. So hooker, final position, boys. I did trade out Tom Starling this week. So Sandon Smith's been flexed up to hooker for me, and Peter Mamazalis. So yeah, Mamazalis and Tom Starling, I've had him for I had Mamazalis from the start, and Tom Starling like after 1 week after I realised I fucked up that trade. But yeah, Mamazalis and Tom Starling have been absolute guns for me, and obviously Sandon Smith's been a reliable option, especially with some attacking stats here and there and converting, which has been super helpful. And they've made me, 200K each. So, yeah, it's been great. What about you guys, Andy?
Yep. So I started with Harry Grant because I just, previous seasons I've been burnt by not having Harry Grant. So I just had him in straight away. After he wasn't performing, traded down to Hakes and was running Hakes, Sen, Smith, and then just the other week with that price rise of Starling, got him in just for that big cash gem that he had. Unfortunately, since then he hasn't really been performing that well, and he's also kind of getting a bit of a downtick with his minutes. So possibly, I know we're going to talk about trades later, but possibly something in the future. Just trying to maybe trading him out.
Yeah, Jakey, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I'm running Sandon Smith and Corey Pakes, and they're the two I started with. And yeah, at the moment, they've both got 2 low break evens, which I really like. So they're not going anywhere at the moment. Yeah, and to be honest, they've done a lot better than I was expecting. Broncos, obviously, they're looking pretty good. Pakes and Sandon Smith have slipped over for a few tries, so they're doing really good for 2 cheapies. Loving it.
Unreal. Adam, what about you, mate?
So same as Andy, started with Harry Grant and Sandon Smith. Obviously, Smith's a bit of an easy pick. He's been great. Jumped off Harry for Starling. I've always loved Starling. There was a season where I traded him in and then back out and then back in again. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me why Ricky plays with his minutes so much. Seems like a good player to me. Makes the tackles, good attacking threat. I mean, it's a super coach. I mean, when he gets the minutes, he's a gun. So 340K was a good price. So yeah, I got him in. He's probably peaked now. He's been Ricky'd again. His minutes have gone down every week, so it's a bit of a concern. He's got me again, Ricky. So we'll see what happens at hooker. But I mean, for now it's fine. Luckily, Grant hasn't done too much, but there's definitely going to be a decision to be made there, especially if Starling is sticking around that 50-minute mark. He's probably not someone I'm confident playing. And if I'm not confident playing him and he's almost 500K, high 400s, I think I'll move him on.
Yeah. I think the Tom Starling debate is obviously he's getting around 50 to 55 minutes now. Owen Paddy's been very solid, and obviously it's a bit of a future sort of setup with Owen Paddy there. And I think Ricky Stewart probably would like to have Tom Starling play a little bit of lock, but due to the forward pack at the Raiders and with Zach Koskinen coming back and Matty Nicholson becoming a gun out of nowhere, really, and then obviously you got your front rowers who are awesome as well. There's just no minutes really for him to play, which is so unfortunate. Yeah, I think he'd be potentially not there next year just due to the fact that not Jaden, what's his name? Who's the Knights?
Yeah, Jaden.
Is it Jaden?
Caden Brayley.
Yeah, Jaden Brayley, that's his name. Yeah, Jaden Brayley.
Signed with the
Jaden
Raiders.
Yeah, Jaden Brayley, he's gone there. And then obviously still got Danny Levi and then Owen Paddy and Tom Starling. 4 hookers in your top 30 doesn't really make too much sense. So yeah, Tom Starling could be a hot commodity on the open market later on. But boys, unreal to hear your thoughts on your teams. I think we just go straight into your trades this week, and then we'll look at who are some potential buy, holds, and sells after that. So Andy, we'll start with you, mate. Have you made your trades this week?
Look, I have. Normally, what I'll do is I'll kind of, as soon as lockout happens, I'll make trades straight away, and then I'll kind of step back a little bit and try and figure out what I need to be doing in the future instead of just making impulsive decisions. But I like to have that gut feeling first and then step back and take a bit of a outwards look at it. So at the moment, Munster, like as I briefly talked about before, I just think he looks great at the moment. I traded, let me just see. I traded out 2 Wars this week. So I traded out Aaron Clark and Metcalf to bring in Munster and Kant. So Metcalf, he's had a couple of really good games. He's had a couple of really bad games. He has a high break even of 76. Just don't really think long term I want him there. I prefer to have someone like Munster in. And I just think over the next couple of weeks, bit of a tough run for them. Melbourne Broncos not really going to be scoring well, so time to probably move him on. Same thing with Aaron Clark. I know he's got a we've had players leaving. I thought his minutes were going to come up, but he still ended up with about 50 minutes the whole game last week. So also just kind of thinking he's probably gotten his price rise and just time to move him on as well. Can move on to someone that's going to give me a bit of cash. And I'm not really playing him. Not really worth it for me. So just those are the 2 at the moment. Haven't trying to save trades a little bit. I have pushed the boost button, but I'm trying to not use it this week. I don't think there's anyone that I can see that I really need to bring in so far, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. And how much cash you got in the bank, mate?
With this week's trades, I've got 200K in the bank.
Nice. Pretty solid. Jakey, what about you, brother? $1 million man.
$1 million man.
Yeah, yes, that's me. As early on Adam Ray to Dill Brown at this stage. I am not only struggling a little bit with my decision making this week, but I'm quite hesitant. I've only used the one trade. I've got so many options. I obviously need to probably start getting a few more wins under the belt. And I have so many, with all my duels, have so many different ways I can try and play it out this week. I've considered ditching Metcalf, moving JC out of that fullback up to that 5'8". I'm considering Teddy or Walsh into that fullback position. I'm considered just getting rid of Duffy as well, bringing in Nathan Cleary, even though he has that over that 100 break even. Yeah, I could look for that more cash gen. I could get rid of any of my either Hamish Stewart or Jack Goshkowski and kind of look in that front row or second row area with that, especially with Thomas Cant, that negative 66 break even. That's easy money. So yeah, I'm definitely a bit all over the shop. I was considering getting rid of Jesse Arthurs this week. Even last week, I was kind of like considering him as well, but I don't know if there's any centre wing that I absolutely love. I know I mentioned Jermaine Asako earlier in the podcast, just speaking, but Jesse Arthurs has been scoring. He's got that higher average over Asako. So I think why downgrade if he's got that higher average? I think Broncos versus the Roosters compared to Dolphins versus the Panthers. I think probably Arthurs has the easier matchup, even though Osako kicks. So yeah, my head's racing, mate. I could talk a lot around what kind of trades I'm going to pull out. I haven't finalised it, that's for sure, and I reckon I'll be scrambling Thursday night before kickoff and make some silly decision, and it will most likely be Metcalf going out, knowing my luck for the third time or second time so far.
Buy him back, Jakey.
What was that? Sorry, Adam.
But you can always buy him back.
Yeah.
He'll be there for you. You got the bank.
Yeah, I've got the money. I've got the trades. I definitely won't be boosting this week. I used two pretty quickly early on. Get that 2-game buffer, obviously, at the beginning of Supercoach before those price changes start to kick in. That's where I used my opportunity to get rid of a lot of low average players and kind of bring in those higher averages. But yeah, those 3 boosts, they might come to those few buy rounds now. I'm pretty good at saving them for them. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting at.
Yep, nice. Adam, what about you, mate?
Yeah, so I think I will be boosting this week. It'll be my third, which is a lot. 2 easy trades for me. Haven't really wavered on those. So the first trade is Gachevsky to Dylan Egan from the Dragons. And the second one is Kobe Hetherington to Thomas Kant from the Knights. Something I know we talk a lot about. I really focus on having good team value, but also a lot of team value in my starting 18. Because obviously that's where your points are coming from. And so Gachevsky, Kobe, they're not really making any money. They're not really playable. Egan might not make much money either. Kant has a little bit of risk for sure with job security. But just the fact that those 2 moves will get me players that are moving up in price and also free up 100 something K, 150K between those 2 moves. It's actually a little bit more. It's almost 100K that I'm freeing up from making those 2 moves. So pretty set on those for now. My 2 outputs will be a bit weak, but that's something to fix later. The third trade, which I'm going to be looking at boosting, it's a bit of a tough call, but I think I'm going to be doing Walsh out, and I think I'm bringing Pappenhausen in. It's not ideal to sell Walsh low, especially after he's lost me a bit of money, but I'm a little bit nervous about not owning Pappenhausen for the Storm's upcoming draw. If he didn't have the goals, I'd probably just suck it up and hope the Walsh can match him. But with Reynolds back, Walsh loses the goals now. And I mean, the Storm, Pappy last week, he scored 60 odd, had an early shower, only had the 1 try, but he just racked up so many points and goals that it didn't even matter. I would back the Storm to score 30 plus a week, especially with the fixtures. It could be 40 plus, it could even be 50, And yes, last week the attack didn't go his way, but I don't expect that to be the norm. Some weeks it'll be Monster, some weeks it'll be Hughes, maybe one week it'll be Grant, but Pappy will have that one game where he just gets 2 tries and a try assist, 30 in goals, and he's scoring 140. And so as much as it looks a bit sideways on paper, and it might be, I just think, sitting at my rank, Pappy's a really big risk to take on. I don't really want to take on that risk. I want to be able to watch the Melbourne Storm play each week. So, yeah, that's my boost. Pappy coming in. Might consider him for the C. Not really sure yet.
Yeah. Well, I had
To chime in there a little bit, I kind of feel the same with Walsh, a little similar scenario. With Adam Reynolds and that hamstring there, I believe that Walsh will most likely be kicking. It's either that or maybe Tony Staggs, possibly for the Broncos. So there's that 50-50 opportunity for Walsh, I feel. And Broncos, same thing. I don't even think they're playing their best footy yet.
Definitely not.
I heard some commentary maybe it was Andrew Johns or something through Nine or whatnot, and just saying how scary they looked and how much potential they still have for the season. And yeah, if the Broncos can really turn it on, and I'm sure we'd all agree, Reece Walsh isn't even playing his best footy at the moment. He's been mistakes galore. That's why he's probably dropped so much in cash. So yeah, just as Pappy, don't get me wrong, you're definitely right with all that on Pappenhausen, but yeah, Walsh could do the exact same thing, I feel.
Yeah, that's fair shit.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, for sure. And I mean, if Reynolds was out and Walsh definitely had the goal kicking, it would be an even harder decision. Yeah. Honestly, for me, it just comes down to ownership and rank. Like, if Pappy goes huge, it's really going to kick me down. Yeah. Whereas if I get him in and he struggles a bit, everyone's got him anyway, so it's not going to hurt me too much. It's kind of a defensive play for me, just with my rank. I mean, it could backfire. If it does, so be it.
What do we think about just like, I guess, Broncos spine structure now that they do have? I think you talked about it before with, Ben Hunt instead of like Ezra Mam. I think they kind of are playing more through the halves than they are doing kind of like a sweeping fast motion. Like a lot of the ball last season was just coming out the back to Reece Walsh, and they were just burning people around the outside. I feel like the attack is really just kind of more really reliant on the halves at the moment, and I think Ben Hunt's really playing a big part in that. And I think with kind of like where you're at the moment, I understand your hesitation around keeping Walsh because I don't really think he's as involved anymore with how well the Broncos are doing.
Yeah, it's such a tough call, and they're both absolute superstars in their own right. But I think I'd have to side with you, Adam. Melbourne Storm, they're the best team in the comp at the moment. The more Storm players you can have, especially in key positions, I think it's a safe bet. Yeah, I'd be more nervous not owning Pappenhausen than I would be not owning Walsh. And I think that's the definitive factor. And I'm lucky. I'm happy I jumped on Pappy a couple of weeks ago, but having the C on him last week when he jumped off 20 minutes early, I was a bit annoyed with that one. Obviously, it's made my rank drop a fair bit, but yeah, what can you do? So, my trades this week, I'm boosting for the 4th time in a row. I do love a trade. It's like my little turn on, my little fetish. So, I've got one boost left, but I think they're good trades. And again, I'm trying to be aggressive early because it's more set and forget, and I'm getting him in form. So, I'm trading out Thomas Starling, Seyfarth, and Marju. Marju was a bit reluctant. I held him last week over Jesse Arthurs, but I think the form of the Newcastle Knights, regardless of their draws, just a little bit disheartening. And with Jack Cogger hurting his hand last week or finger, just not helping the cause. And Kalen Pong is obviously looking very frustrated on the field. Yes, they have attacking flair, but they are nursing a couple injuries in their outside backs. Still not loving the halves combination. Again, there's a lot of questions. So Marju, yes, he might average 60, but what I feel like I'm doing for my new trade is going to be better. So Seyfarth out, Marju out, Starling out. So as I said earlier, I'm going Egan in. Again, bottom dollar cheap. He's going to make me cash. Probably a safe bet to stay on the bench. But then I've gone big. I've gone Nathan Cleary in and Cam Munster in. So if I look at it on paper, it's definitely upgrades all around. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, your top 18, Adam, is so important. And my top 18 starting to look pretty bloody solid. And so if I'm looking at a head-to-head like Jake would, I'd pretty much back my 18 over anyone else. Again, from that cash generation I've done so earlier on. So yes, having 4 boosts in a row isn't ideal, but I've been so aggressive with my trades that I think Chris said it. When Chris is another guy who will be jumping on this podcast, guys, later on in another episode. But he told me that my cash generation is better than most of the guys in the top 100. So in terms of rank, if I get them right, I should climb the rank quite quickly. So the boost is redundant there, but I am notorious for trading irresponsibly. Later on, guys, in the future weeks, do not let me boost. I'm trying to save it for round 26, round 27. Please, please, please.
Finals.
Yeah. That's lit. That's legit it. So that's our teams. That's the trades. I think now let's look at some trade targets, guys. So we got any ideas who's a must buy this week? I got some ideas. You guys got any off the top of your head?
I don't have any big targets. I just kind of wanted to, I guess, circle back to, I guess your trades, just with the whole Marju out thing. I just think, like, I totally agree. I think Knights just not really clicking at the moment. I had a few Knights to start the season. I have Sharp in at the moment, which, he loves a little poke, but they're just not attacking, and they didn't do anything last week. And Ponga was just kind of dancing around, didn't even look like his old self. So hopefully he can come into a bit of form over the next few weeks, because they do a bit of a softer draw, and hopefully they can start clicking a bit more. Long-term trade targets, don't really have any at the moment, just kind of prioritizing a little bit of buy coverage along with cash gen. Yeah. Few players are just wait and see at the moment.
Personally,
You go, Jokey.
in my sights a little bit. I would have loved to have kind of got rid of Jack Goshkowski this week. But me, with my little price rises that I love, with that break even of 16, if he slips over for a try or whatnot, that's just more little cash, and that just saves me a trade that I can hold on to. But if anyone else out there, because I know you got a fair few people listening, Ryan, I think he's only got a break even around the mid 50, 59.
Yeah, 59.
Mate, I'd love your LENA. Would
Yeah,
love it.
there.
59 versus New Zealand.
Yeah, literally.
I'll bring him straight
59
in.
versus New Zealand, honestly, not too bad.
Yeah, I think an Ali Katoa, if you got him in, like, far out, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of must, but I do think there's some players that are important to buy this week, or at least consider. In the cheapies, I think everyone should be getting one of Dylan Egan or Thomas Card. It's just such a good opportunity to make a downgrade in that position. Most of us have someone that's peaked, and it just frees up some cash, gets you some money to make some upgrades. We might be getting, it looks like we are getting this Roosters halfback, Hugo Sabali, next week. So he's dual 2RF halfback. He's played 3 games already, so he actually will change price this week as well. But he's got a break even of 45. So he's not going to really change too much, hopefully. I mean, if he goes huge, he'll be urgent. We'll have to rush him in. But other than him, there's not a lot of 2RF, coming up. And it's not often a position that gets a lot of cheapies later in the season. So I think for me, Cart is the guy. Like, I just don't want to miss him. I know there's some risk around his job security with Dylan Lucas. I'm not too concerned about that personally. So Lucas had a pretty high grade hamstring. There's talking about round 8 at the earliest, maybe even round 9 for him. And round 8 is the game that they're going to New Zealand, and that involves a bit of travel. We saw Tom Turbo, after traveling to New Zealand, pinged his hammy a bit. So I think there's a decent chance Lucas isn't back to around 9, and that would give Camp plenty of time to make 200 plus K. Also, he just looks good. He racks up base. He's a good runner. He's got line breaks in both his games. Like, you can put him on the park. I'll be playing him this week. So I like that he's playable. He's going to make really fast cash. Like, worst case, he flips him in a couple of weeks. It's not the end of the world. I don't know if there's too many things that should be avoiding him, personally. I think the risk around him actually makes him more beneficial, because people won't jump on, potentially. And then you might get an advantage. This is a bit of a throwback to people that have been playing for a while, but we've seen these scenarios before where guys get a start, we don't expect it to continue, and things break their way. A good example is Talakai a few years ago for the Sharks. He came in for an injury and just ended up staying at centre for ages, racked up huge score. I avoided him. He scored like 140 one week. That was pretty harmful to not only made a heap of cash.
Morgan Harper week, yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
Morgan Harper, cooked him. And another one's Isaiah Papali'i, that first year at the Eels. Maybe it was Madison. I can't remember who was in front of him, but he got a start for someone being injured, played a week or two at second row, scored well, and then he just kept the gig all year. He just was so good. Madison kept getting injured, and he ended up being like a gun keeper, got up to 700K. So there's been these times where, someone comes in, they're only expected to get 2 weeks, people avoid. They get lucky, Lucas could go down again, he could get delayed, KPP could get suspended again. There's so many different ways that could become a must-have. I think it's a good gamble to take. So I'm
Oh,
jumping
no,
on,
that's a
and
very
I
good
reckon
You
everyone
can
else
tell
should.
it.
That's a very fair point. Yeah.
Like, look, he could make 120k and have to go straight away. If that happens, so be it.
Oh, I'm rattled now. I'm actually rattled.
And couple of others. I think everyone should be looking to get a piece of the Storm. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be Hughes if you don't have two halfbacks. It could be Munster. It could be Pappy. Ellie Katoa is a great shout. Like, their draw is just insane the next 6 weeks. They've got so many games at Amy Park, games at Southern Court, games against teams that we don't expect to be good defensively. So
What
I
do we think about? I know, sorry to interrupt, but what do we think about? Obviously, he's talking about like getting a piece of the Storm. Like, would it be worth doing more of like a sideways trade from like an Arthur's to like a Howarth or even
Grant
Grant
Anderson has a really low
Anderson.
beat.
Yeah, like just someone like Grant Anderson's 522, so not quite sideways. You're still a little bit of an upgrade, but same thing. Like try scoring potential, strong Melbourne side. Probably not going to score 133 each week, but just yeah.
Well, the problem is, like, Xavier Coates got no ball and Grant Anderson got all the ball. So is there going to be a 50-50 split? But yeah, it's a hard decision. But that's not a bad idea, though, mate. I think definitely getting an outside back from the Storm is definitely a good play as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And I
think it
mean,
probably like a Garrick maybe doesn't work out. I think someone like that would possibly be in the back of my mind as to someone to maybe like target or like a Howarth. Like I think he's just does like loves a run of the ball.
yeah, just on Garrick, what are you guys thinking with Garrick?
Probably give him this week versus the Sharks. I mean, we saw Garrick score 140 the week his child was born, or the day his child was born, or something like that. I scored 140 without Tom. Hopefully, just takes a bit more of a role this week. I don't mind the Sharks matchup. So just he's a bit of a wait and see. I don't think I'm going to rage trade him out this week or panic trade him out this week with the high break even and the lack of Tom. But yeah, just see how he goes. I know he does drop a bit average wise. I think he averages more around, I think it was a 60 without Tom, but I don't know. We'll wait and see.
So what about this on the fly? Keep Marju in, downgrade Garrick to someone, and they'll be able to keep Thomas Kant in because I'm about 5k off from getting Thomas Kant from Egan. So everyone's thoughts on that?
Garrick's the higher.
Yeah, so I'll have
Yeah,
like an
I
extra
mean,
250k in the bank then.
look, for me, I'm fairly content holding Garrick. I think I briefly mentioned it earlier, but there's some pretty interesting stats around Manly players with and without Tommy Turbo. Garrick, since moving to centre, he's actually averaged more without Turbo, and it's the way they use him. So if you watch round 1 and round 2, Garrick scored well, but it was mostly goals, and that was because when they'd run their sweeping shape, which is so important for Supercoach, they would have Garrick as the decoy, and Turbo would be sweeping behind Garrick, or even Ola swept behind Garrick, and they would just hit Saab out the back, hit Turbo sweeping, hit Ola sweeping, and Garrick was just running decoys all day. Whereas when Turbo's out, they actually run Garrick as a sweeper a lot more, and then he's got the potential to go himself and score. He's got the potential to pass and score. They also just give him early ball. Same with Ola. They'll give him early ball and just say, go do something. And that's when Garrick tends to excel. It's hard because Manly themselves are worse. I'm fairly happy, Manly cover all 3 major buys. I'm fairly happy sitting on Garrick. He might lose 100k. I'm not sure it's going to be worth the trade in and the trade out. And round 7, they've got the Dragons at 4 Pints Park. That's a game that, could potentially do very well. So I'm going to just sit him there. I think with how much cash gen we've gotten this year, all these cheapies like Purdue, Tamale making heaps of money, guys like Horse and White just sitting there easily playable. Yes, Garrick might lose some cash. I think I'm going to try to save trades to keep him. Whereas Greg, I've got him too. The shape for him's really bad. Like, he doesn't look like scoring. The Knights left edge, since Lucas went down, they haven't got the ball out to Greg. He's getting good base, but they've really struggled. So, I mean, I'd definitely move him on before Garrick. Personally, I don't think he's going to hurt you. I think, similar to what we spoke about preseason, actually, not having Garrick could be very painful, potentially. So,
They're
I would
definitely
take that
upsides
risk.
there.
Yeah, I guess Garrick has had that like huge higher ceiling
Huge.
overall. So yeah, I guess more likely to punish you.
It's
I mean,
quite
he's
If you
hard.
probably
don't have
deserved it,
him
right?
first if you don't have Greg, and he might. I think 2 years ago was the last time we saw him score over 100. He base as well, but like, do you want someone that's just going to base 60 each week or 50 each week, and that's all you get?
It's just so hard with Bradman Betts out inside him. Like Bradman Betts always runs it. He never gives Bradman Najee the ball unless he's getting tackled and just as a offload.
Yeah,
It's
little
never a
flick
drawn up
pass.
pass.
Yeah,
Lehigh Hopewadi is one that could have potential as well, filling in Tommy Turbo's, that centre wing fullback dual position. I think he got over 130, 133, I think. So yeah, he is one that I think is potential. Could be that downgrade from Garrick. I know, as Adam was saying, Garrick actually has great stats when Tommy Turbo is out. But yeah, if you're looking, I guess, to save 200 grand or so, Hopper Whitey is one that I'd consider as well.
That's a good shout. What about holds, boys? So obviously got Ponga, huge BE, but as I mentioned, he's still one of the best fullbacks available, but he's playing like a halfback. So I think the upside is there in that red zone area. So, but yeah, he's probably going to lose cash and probably going to get down to maybe 650 eventually. So definitely looking like a buy there. What's our thoughts on Kalen Ponga?
I think he's a hold.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I think he's a hold. Yeah.
I'm a bloke who hates losing money on his players, and with that break even of 156, he's staying in my team. I'm throwing all my credit at him. I think he's going to have a bounce back game eventually. And I hope it's this week at home against the Tigers.
Yeah,
Crossed.
I'm same boat. Ponga's a hold. I think the draw gets a lot better for him. 2 home games, Tigers, Sharks, and then off to New Zealand, South, Gold Coast, Para. I mean, even just for round 11 alone versus, or even round 10 alone versus Gold Coast. I know, we won against Newcastle last time, but I think at home they'll be looking for a bit of a revenge tour. So I think he'll probably score big in round 10. So I'm happy to hold him for a bit longer. Just hopefully they figure out their shape and their attack a bit more, because they just look really flat at the moment.
And I mean, you guys mentioned the home games. That's an important point. Also day games, like Supercoach scoring, day game is what you want. We saw what Elso did in an Arvo game last weekend. The Knights, they struggled against the Bulldogs, but they had 2 players ruled out in the first 2 minutes. They were short on the bench. The Dogs are just relentless. The Knights just couldn't get in the game. And so, yes, his break even is very high. But day game at home, he scores 120 this week. He loses 35k, and then his break even is probably 80 the next week. So I'd hold. I don't know, but I would hold.
Yep.
I think
Another buy
just
potential,
also
boys. Suo Wong. What do we think about Suo Wong? He's got a negative break even. He's one of the guys I was tossing up at the very start of the year. But yeah, break even of negative 24. Is he too expensive now, or is he still a buy? What do we think?
Only if you need him, but I think in terms of that second row position, we've already discussed some better options, I feel, across Egan and Canton. He's personally not someone I'd probably be looking at. Yeah, he's probably got better job security, especially if Victor Radley goes down for another HIA or something like that. But yeah, he's not on my radar at all for a buy. But if you have him, he's definitely a hold.
possibly if, say, like a gun like went down at some point and you were looking for like a mid-ranger that's got good buy coverage, probably yes. But yeah, I think we just missed the boat on that one a little bit. He kind of really came under the radar there. Inflated minutes of recent times as well. Yeah, it would have been good to have him, but just I think missed the boat a little bit.
I mean, interestingly, he's an example of what I was talking about earlier with Khan. People didn't jump on because, Radley was out, and then Butcher was out, and then Connor Watson was out, and there was a lot of uncertainty around his minutes. And so the people that did jump on were very handsomely rewarded. He's made, his starting price was $317, but when most people bought, he was $350. And there was so much uncertainty around his minutes, his role, that he's only 5% owned up the top of the rankings. And those 5% of people got 120 points as a pod. They're making heaps of cash. I think it's team dependent. I thought about jumping on. I'm just like 1.5k short with my trades of buying him this week. I think that he might just continue getting minutes, continue getting, decent points. It's not too late. 500k is a fine price for him. I think he could be like, say, 600k-ish player. But most people have bigger priorities, I would say. And another thing, just for my team personally, is I have a lot of...
Obviously, we got some outside backs who've got pretty heavy break evens in Daniel Tupou at 639k. He's got a break even 120, and Ronaldo Mulatalo at 677k with a break even 119. If you own those two players, would you sell and downgrade or do a sideways trade?
I would, but that's a given from me, I reckon, in my opinion. Those high break evens, I feel like there's some great cheapies out there who have already made a lot of money, but there's still got a lot of price rise in them. Yeah, with those centre wings positions, I just think, if they get a lot of ball, as we mentioned earlier, that Storm comparison of Grant Anderson and Xavier Coates, Origin flyer, who I think last year scored the try of the century or whatever it was, who I'm not too sure what Xavier Coates scored, but his opposite winger was getting on the ball and scored over 100. Wingers can be so temperamental. They can score you 20, they can score you 100. So yeah, if you can save some money there, and you've got those spare trades and you're happy to get rid of those, I'd be selling. They're over 100 BE, get a cheapie in.
Yeah, good shout. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, I think definitely, like with Ronnie, he's really hot and cold at the moment. Kind of same as the Knights at the moment. I think just Sharks are just all over the place. Like they look really good some weeks, and then some weeks they just absolutely drop it. And then even like the attack, like it's left, it's right. Like you never know which way it's going to come. In some teams, you just know they're going to feed the ball one way every single time. Whereas like he might not even touch the ball. I think the errors that come from Ronnie as well. I kind of tend to steer clear of him, but I mean that has burnt me in the past.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those players who's rocks and diamonds. I watch him quite carefully because he's in one of my draft leagues, and he's a dynamo under the high ball, but he gets it or he drops it. Like he's definitely a 50-50 on the high ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the volatility, as you guys mentioned, for centre wings, it's just he's definitely one of those examples where Daniel Tupou on the other spectrum, he's safe as houses. It's just he's in a shit Roosters team. Maybe the new halfback or /5'8" will get him better ball, but yeah, it's definitely some volatility with those Roosters players for sure. Is there
So
any
is
other
Sandon
players?
Smith?
Sorry.
So just going to continue on with the Roosters. So Sandon Smith, is he moving to the 7, and the new Roosters players is moving to the 6?
No, Hugo's going straight to the halfback position. And yeah, Smith is still in Jersey.
Okay, good.
Going to the team list at least, so that's all I'm running on.
Yep. Thoughts on Billy Smith, boys? Still awake? Yeah.
I will definitely consider him if he has another good game this week. That could be one Jesse Arthur's to Billy for me, especially with... I do my best not to have two of the same players in the same team in the same position, but I've just totally contradicted myself looking at my team there because I also have Robert Toyer. So who knows? Yeah, I'm a shambles there, but yeah, I'm not personally not scared of getting Billy if he has another great game.
Yeah. I'm sure he's due for some bloody better injury luck, that's for sure. He's a former Australian schoolboy. There's definitely upsides there, but as you mentioned, Adam, it's just he's never on the park, unfortunately. Definitely could be a sneaky draft pickup, which I potentially have waiver wires on, but time will tell.
Right, pretty sure you blew your waiver last week anyway,
mate,
so I'm not really too
I'm
stressed.
wavering everyone. Trade insane or remain the same.
You don't need a waiver, just wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's fine.
All right, boys. Is there any other players of interest for buy, holding, or selling? I am the same.
VC on him also, just purely though, just because of lack of looping options. I had the VC on him last week as well, which he scored 70 and then got upgraded to like a 90. I thought he looked great. running the ball, great movement. I think the Panthers' mistakes is really what's, I think, costing his scoring potential. Normally, when we see the Panthers play and him scoring well, like they'll get into just a run of just attacking, and it feels like the whole game is just in them moving the ball around the park, and like that's where he gets all these points from. But they've just been turning over the ball so much. Like I'm not sure what their completion rate is at for the season, but it feels like they just haven't been completing. And I think once they start to click a bit more, then I think we're really going to start to see him like take off.
Yeah, I'm definitely considering Nathan. As I said, yeah, at the moment that Reynolds trade has gone to Brown. I still have one trade up my sleeve with all the cash to burn. I could easily get rid of Duffy. But what's going through my head at least is between Nathan Cleary with his 116, I think it is, BE, and Hughes' 96, I think it is as well. I'm going to see how those two boys play this week. I'm going to assess them essentially next week. I think they're both guns. They're both, yeah, great halfbacks, and probably the top two for me, I reckon, so far this season that you probably want in your team. And I think next week I will probably make that leap. So I'm taking a huge risk because I have, like earlier this week, I did make that trade straight to Cleary. I immediately put that VC on him as well. So yeah, you guys are definitely making the right moves, and I'm sure I'll regret this. So I'm sure our chat can blow up when he scores 140 and everyone starts looping him. So
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll clip you up, mate. Yeah, I think Cleary is just, as you guys mentioned, the greed. I ran the gauntlet last week and arguably it backfired in that regard too. He still killed it at 90 plus points. Obviously, the update helped him. Adam, you made several good points that Panthers were underperforming. Jack Cole was not too good last week. Dane Laurie was very good, yes, but he's definitely more of a runner than a facilitator, where Dylan Edwards can do both. And I think Dylan Edwards back this week. They've gone Blaze Talangi at 5'8". We've got Schneider on the bench as a bit of backup as well. I think the pieces now are around Cleary. The outside backs look a bit more cemented in their positions. Yeah, I think this Panthers team this week is going to be pretty scary. I'd be very nervous if I was not a Cleary owner, and that's Jake.
What do we think about Latrell now that he's moving into the halves? Do we think that is there any world that you bring Latrell in, even though he doesn't have duels, just into a fullback position now that he's playing in the halves?
I love
not this week,
Yeah.
personally. Yeah, once again, I'll wait till he drops a little bit because I think he will. So I'll wait for my opportunity to get him at a primo price. But yeah, I have no idea how he scores in the 5'8" in that halves position. We all know in the past he's no longer playing in the NRL, but Joey Manu, every time he was pushed into either that 5'8" or fullback role when Teddy was out or something like that, everyone used to love jumping on Manu. Yeah, it is scary if people do have Trell, whether that's in draft or classic. If you go up against him, I think he has potential to do really well because the Bunnies have been super, I reckon, this year.
Yeah, the inclusion of Wayne Bennett, he really is just such an incredible coach, and like really gets kind of everyone on the same page, working together. Like everyone's just clicking. Like regardless, like they started the season with, decimated team, a lot of injuries, Latrell out, and young halves, and they've just done so well.
I think it's more like the eye test last week. The match fitness isn't there. It's not even the price that deters me. It's just the fitness, because the decisions are going to be worse off. He's not going to be more active around the ball. Yes, now he's in the front line, which was obviously doing when the injuries happened last week. But I just don't think he has the stamina for 80 minutes to be a super player for the price that he's worth at currently. So, Jake, what you're saying with the drop in price. But if he had 4 weeks under his belt of match fitness, I'd probably pull the trigger this week, to be honest. I'm just more concerned about his cardio than anything else.
I'm not sure really how much ball he got. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah. So, Morgan, you can wait on that one, my friend. Is there anyone else of relevance to worth considering, either buying, holding, or trading, or waiting and seeing?
Canberra, sorry, it's South North Queensland. Are they playing Perth? I know I guess there's like always a lot of factors that you kind of like think about. Like you talk about travel time, you talk about turnarounds. I think kind of looking at the other side of the coin is Manly just played Melbourne, who I gave them a bit of a beating. They're going to be turned around, looking to get back on and get that win again. And I think they're going to probably be really focusing this week on key defensive, shutting Nico down, and getting the win this week. So I don't know. I think it'll be a bit of a bounce back for Manly, but yeah, it could really go either way. Yeah, the Nico killer. Yeah, I'm sure he's a great bloke.
I've just thought of two more, boys. Again, second row forwards, bit of luxury this year comparatively to other positions. But what's our thoughts on Dave Fafita and Jeremiah Nanai? Obviously, both coming off the bench still, probably playing around 50 to 60 minutes per game. Obviously, offensive dynamos, but not worth buying due to minutes, or what are we thinking?
Not just brought back some memories for me there. Nano is actually one of the players I started with. I think that when Tino came in, actually. Yeah, I personally, at the moment, would be staying away from both. I haven't even assessed them whatsoever about their prices or anything like that. But just coming off the bench, I was very disappointed in the Titans last week. I am a Titans fan, so I'll probably be a bit more critical of them than I should be. But yeah, those reduced minutes, they're in their own merit. They're both superstars. They're both Origin players at their times as well. But at the moment, yeah, I'm not considering them at all.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page.
650k. He's got a break even of 89. So yeah, he's probably going to drop cash. And Nanai is at 514,000, and he's got a break even of 50.
I think if I was to pick one of the two, I think just every time Nanai comes onto the park, he's just electric. And I'm actually shocked that he's not starting because I think he looks great this season. David Fafita, I don't really think he looks good at the moment. He's had some really lazy, poor kind of defensive efforts. Even like running the ball, very flat. Just not really for me at the moment. He is a superstar, and hopefully, I thought he was hopefully going to link up with Jaden Campbell a bit on that right edge a bit more, but it's just not happening this season. Nanai would be a close watch if he starts getting more minutes. He could be a bit of a Crichton from last year. Went from kind of no minutes to 80 minutes to absolutely killing it and taking off. He'd be my one to watch, but I don't think Dave Fafita's there.
Yeah, I think Fafita's probably maybe a 1 to 2 weeks away. He's definitely going to be bottom out in price and probably getting close to that high 500,000 mark. And I tell you what, if he gets there, I'm probably going to be buying, because then he pretty much didn't have an off season due to surgery and a couple of other niggles that it was happening. So yeah, 6 weeks under his belt, time we get to that stage, I think he's going to be absolute dynamo, and he's still pretty much got to prove himself to Billy Slater in my eyes that he wants to be in that Queensland jersey. So at a high 500,000 mark, the incentive for Queensland Maroons, yeah, I think about 2 weeks' time, he's definitely going to be definitely a talking point at least.
There's a lot of great second rowers this year. I feel like between the cheapies that we've spoken about quite a bit, but even some of the absolute guns have definitely dropped a little bit. Like just mentioning Gus there, and Isaiah Yo is another one. He's dropped a bit, and he's usually very, very steady throughout the year. Once again, there's some New South Origin players. So Max Platt is one I like as well, just with that dual hooker. And then yeah, Hudson Young. He was one that was in my team to start the year, but last minute I ended up getting rid of him. But he's done really well recently too. There's a lot I feel like with second row to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think kind of the other two, I guess, that I'm kind of thinking about, but a bit more of a wait and see, is probably Zach Lomax now that he's moved to the wing. And then, I don't know, he's just such a beast. Hopefully with Mitchell Moses coming back into the side as well, get a bit more of the kicking higher ball for him, which I just think he'll just absolutely kill it underneath. We also just got back from injury on the wing again, is absolutely having a mind blank.
Why are you looking that up? So Zach Lomax is 724,000, and he's got a break even 103. Yeah, he's probably going to be bottom out in price in the next week or two. if he gets into that high 6 range, similar to what Valentine's home will be, those two boys who are normally the gun center wings or the premium center wings, they could definitely be good ideas to be buying. What were you saying before, Andrew?
Yeah. The other one was Jacob Kraz, just on the wing again, on the wing, ace power beast, looked good on the weekend, like hasn't really skipped a beat, like, and just dogs look good. Dogs look good this season.
Crazy. Interesting with the Karaz shout too. As you said, they got the bye, but projected to have Kickow and Burden back round 7. So obviously the best team in the league going off the rankings. So yeah, that's a huge shout. I don't mind that at all. All right, boys. Well, I think that's majority of the boys to look at for this week. So buy, holding, and selling. Obviously, listeners, this is a bit of a longer one because we've had to go through everyone's teams, but we'll probably look at projecting whether or not these boys are in every week. We'll have sub some other boys out, but probably looking anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes for this super coach specific segment for Tackles and Tinnies. And then we've got essentially a part 2 that we're about to film now, which is the main segment that will feature Gary, because Gary's got some work commitments tonight, but again, we'll quickly check in on him with his super coach in the next episode, which again, we'll be filming now. So again, thank you, Jake. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Andy. We're going to introduce our mate, Chris, who's also a super coach freak / nerd. So yeah, he'll be interesting. And a couple of other boys have been teaming me up trying to get on the show as well. So yeah, the more the merrier. Different perspectives and different biases always come into play too. So, but we definitely appreciate these 3 boys, and yeah, they'll definitely be featuring the show more often. That's for sure. Any last words,
Thanks
boys?
for having us.
Yeah, thanks, boys. All right, part 2 coming out soon.